How's it, everyone? Hope you're having an amazing day. Welcome to How's It Cousins, the podcast where we take a look at the unique people of the world and the interesting stuff that they do. We talk about it, we relate to it, and hopefully we can relate them to you, the listener. On today's show, we want to take a look at voice acting. More importantly, or more specifically, English voice acting over Japanese voice acted content, anime, video games, etc. Even more specific than that, I want to take a look at one of my favorite voice actors who plays multiple characters in games that I love, and that's Erika Harlacher.
How's it, Chris? Are you talking about Erika Harlacher? Yo, I'm down to talk about Erika Harlacher. Let's do this.
Aloha, Alvin. So nice of you to join the podcast today.
Yeah, man, I'm always down to talk to you. It's always fun. Let's do it.
All right, for those of you listening, if you like what you're hearing, you can check out our other episodes on all the popular podcast services, including Spotify right now, which is fantastic.
Yes.
We are part of the Hows It Network. Go to HowsItNetwork.com. You can see all the other stuff we're doing. Make sure to follow us on social media at Hows It Network, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the like. Alvin, you got anything you want to plug before we get into this?
Yes, my name is Aloha Alvin, and you can find more of me at AlohaAlvin.com.
All right. So, Erika Harlacher is actually a relatively younger / newer voice actress. She's been more active, I'd say, within the last 5 years. More importantly, in recent history, she has been in games that I've played and taken incredible notice of because I really love the characters that she plays, and she does them so well. First of which I actually played these out of order. So I played Persona 5 most recently, which is a fantastic game. I recommend it to anyone out there who enjoys great stories, Japanese RPG tropes and types. It's an awesome game, but be aware it's like 100-hour investment to get through it.
Trippy. Nice.
But it's a fantastic game. They really took a lot of the systems from older Japanese RPG type games and refined them and made it way more modern. Erika plays the character of Ann Takamaki, which is funny because in the game they consistently use Takamaki.
Interesting.
Yeah, It's funny. It's pronounced. I don't know if it was the voice direction or what. And there's a lot of controversy on the internet regarding that because in Japanese, there's no real emphasis on any syllable. It's not a thing as far as I understand. So Takamaki, it would be said monotone without emphasis. But in the game, they would say Takamaki. They would emphasize that second. Anyway.
Chris, real quick, I got to say this. This is a personal peeve of mine because I grew up in Hawaii. So there's this thing from the power of the land. We call it mana. And in Magic the Gathering, it literally says MANA. And every time I hear the word mana, my brain is like, no, don't say it like that. Okay. Anyway.
Dude, everybody does it though.
Mana. It's mana everywhere. But I mean, just growing up here, I hear the word mana. So whenever I hear mana, my brain is just like, nope.
I wonder if we could Google that and figure out what's the actual correct pronunciation.
Well, okay. That's kind of juiced because as far as I'm concerned, whoever created the word is how it's going to be, right? And to my knowledge, mana is, you know what? Actually, I don't know the background of that. But my gut says it's not mana. That's all.
Interesting. Because we say mana because we know the Hawaiian word mana.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's different than, I don't know what the origin of the actual word is. We know the Hawaiian pronunciation of it is mana, but I don't know what the actual origin is. That this might be a Google in the middle of the show. Just FYI.
You had an interesting point there, which is I am making an assumption there. But okay, so in Magic, if I want to cast a lightning bolt, I tap a mountain, aka I draw power from the mountain, and then I cast a lightning bolt, 1 R or just R. I would say that's like mana. I'm getting power from the land. But I don't know for sure, actually, now that you mention it. I don't know the background. All I know is whenever I hear mana, I kind of like a little on the inside. So, yeah.
Interesting in that pronunciation thing. But that's kind of where I wanted to kind of take this week going because, again, in Persona 5, they emphasize what you would think is the wrong syllable, but there have been many articles and videos where people kind of describe that to where no, that's actually not incorrect. It's just the way that the direction that they went. Anyway,
Sure.
Erika Harlacher plays Anne, and she is I think it's quarter American student female in a Japanese high school.
Okay.
And she has to, I guess, deal with the whole being outcasted in Japanese.
Sure.
Because in Japan, a lot of the school children in a normal Japanese high school, your run-of-the-mill Japanese high school, not on the military base or anything like that, they're predominantly Japanese. And she has to deal with the being an outcast of the culture in that case, because she looks very different from all the other students, because she has blonde hair and all that American type of physical features.
Right.
So it's a very interesting character to play, and I found it pretty awesome the way that she was able to take that concept and kind of weave it in. The character is also a model while in high school, because of her we'll say ethnic look.
Sure.
with respect to Japanese, because Japanese, in Japanese culture, they really admire that look as well.
Sure.
So dealing with the social anxiety of being a model, to where that is just what you do. It's not necessarily like she really wanted to. It's like, maybe her parents like, oh yeah, you should go do this type thing. And they put her up to it from
Chris,
a young age. Go ahead.
I really want to throw something out there. This is totally not related in a way, but totally related in another way. Anyway, all right. So Dragon Ball. Okay. I know it's totally not the same anime, but there's a guy on it. His name is Goku. He is an incredible fighter. For the most part, he is a man who has black hair. Okay. Now I don't know the creator side of this. All I know is, as a child, when I saw it, there's a guy over there with all kinds of powers and great fighting. Then he becomes more powerful. How does that black-haired man become more powerful? His hair becomes blonde. I don't know if that's just a subconscious thing. I don't know if that was like the creator making a statement. I don't think so. But I always thought that was interesting. It always stood out to me, to convert from black hair to blonde hair makes you more powerful, especially in a world of fighting and constant combat.
I never really thought of the Super Saiyan thing in that way, but I mean, maybe.
See, I don't think the creator was trying to do that. So part of me is just like, I wonder if subconsciously that was part of it. Now for me, it's just hair color. I don't look at it that way. But I know as a kid, I was like, because someone else was trying to tell me how cool Dragon Ball was, and I didn't know what it was. And then they showed me blonde-haired Goku, and I'm like, I don't get it. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening. Now I know, of course. Power levels going up, all that good stuff. But I know my first reaction as a guy who didn't know anything, as a child who didn't know anything, was black hair to blonde hair. Huh.
Interesting. Well, I can say from actually being in Japan at one point that there is an allure to Western culture there.
Okay.
When I went to Japan a number of years ago, we traveled in a group, and the one, I'll say, Western-looking person who was with us definitely got more, we'll say, attention when we were interacting with groups of Japanese people.
Okay, I get that. Interesting.
So, I mean, granted, that was a while ago. This is like more than 10 years ago, but I still think it's a thing. It's the same thing to where in America there are, groups with Asian influence that really admire Asian cultures. That exists.
Yes, absolutely, that exists. Okay, so here's the PSA / just advice. I had a teacher a long time ago. For the record, I think it was history, but he felt the need to tell us that he was Chinese. Hey, good for you, sir. Whatever, right? Anyway, apparently he had a student a long time ago, and this was a thing where you get one giant character drawn on you, and it becomes a tattoo. So I guess good examples would be maybe power or something, I don't know, courage, that kind of stuff. So anyway, this girl goes up to him and she says, check out my tattoo. By the way, it's not the kind of guy who gives a rip about that at all. So that was a weird conversation for that to be happening. But anyway, the girl says, hey, check out my tattoo. And then he looks at it and he's like, hmm. And then she says, it means lover, or something like that. It means love, something really positive. And then he looks at her and he just says straight up, no, it means slut. You have slut tattooed on your body. And I'm like, wow, that's terrible. That's just terrible. Whoever decided that that would be funny or something to do to her is terrible. But that always kind of puzzled me because I've seen that in Hawaii, so many cultures, people doing things between cultures, not being aware of what they're doing. I can't imagine having the wrong character on your body forever. Especially, I mean, okay, if it's an accident, it's an accident. But in that case, that was malicious, So that just sucks. Okay, anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
No, it does kind of suck. Like, I cannot imagine what it would be like to where you go to the tattoo parlor and give me something that says love. And he's like, all right, here you go.
Yep.
And then
that's
the most fucked up thing ever. And I guess it's tattoos in general, like it's a permanent thing. And I'm so leery when it comes to permanent markings. And maybe that's just a me thing, that I would want to be damn sure that whatever I'm permanently putting on myself is exactly what I want and exactly what it means and exactly the way I want it. I don't know that I could just go and trust someone to do that, because I assume in this story that that person didn't know what love in Chinese actually looked like.
Right. I mean, that's the implication. And that's just crazy in retrospect, I will say, okay, you know what? Just tattoo commentary. I know someone who has tattoos of her children on her body, and I'm just gonna say bluntly, the tattoos didn't come out well. Like I'm a guy who tries to draw. I don't draw that well. Sometimes I do. Generally, I don't. So I know what it's like to have a drawing not come out. That happens too. But then on paper, well, you can crumple up and throw it away. On digital stuff, you can hit Control Z. I can't imagine having a tattoo on you that you just don't like the way it looks. That sucks also.
I agree 100%.
Yes. I met this guy. He was literally like neck to toe. Okay, well, I mean, I never seen him with his clothes off, but anyway, tattoos everywhere. So I started talking to him about it, and it's interesting. He just threw this at me. I didn't ask him. He just goes, okay, here you go. And he said, oh, it costs like 15 grand. And I'm like, I wasn't asking you how much it cost, but interesting. And so then we talked about it some more and the logic behind it. And his comment was essentially, I need to know for sure this is done correctly. He is not Japanese, but his wife is Japanese. And when you go to Japan with a whole lot of tattoos, sometimes that causes controversy. So in his case, he was like, I went and made absolutely sure nothing I have is gang related. So people who know tattoos look at me and like, oh, cool, whatever. He's just some, random dude, as opposed to anything violent. So even in that sense, like, you just got to know what's up. And in his case, I mean, first of all, 15 grand, that's a chunk of money. Second of all, I agree to that. Actually, he is completely the opposite end of the spectrum of that girl with the wrong word tattooed on her body.
That's very interesting you bring that up, because in Japan, right, tattoos are associated with Yakuza.
Yes.
So him having a whole bunch of tattoos would, whether correct or incorrect, would give him a stigma if he's going to Japan.
Ooh, okay. So I don't know anything about that. Essentially what I learned was what he was telling me. So, hey, whatever. But he was trying to make that distinction. Like, maybe to an average person who didn't know, like me, I wouldn't know. It's just, who knows if he has gang stuff on him? I don't know. But according to him, at least, he doesn't get in trouble with at least the people who really know or care, I guess, like police officers or other gang people. But that's an interesting point. Actually, the one I've heard before is if you have literally any tattoos, you cannot hit the public shower stuff. They just period. They just don't let you because they
Yep.
don't want no accidents, no no mistakes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that even I've read some articles recently that even in today's culture, if you have any tattoos, you're automatically associated with that.
Hmm.
And you're right in that I'm sure there are certain tattoos to where it would associate you even more so with that culture. But to the uninitiated in Japan, I think any tattoos kind of puts you in that wheelhouse.
Okay, I can see that. Totally.
All right. So to bring it all the way
Okay.
back. No, that's
Yes.
fine. We went on a little bit of a segue, but that's
That's what
fine.
we do.
Yeah, that's what we do here. We segue out to a couple different topics. But to bring it back, Erika Harlacher plays a character, Ann Takamaki. And as I mentioned, foreigner or, half foreigner in Japan, still part Japanese. So in the game, all the characters get what's called a persona, which is a manifestation of your own, I'll say, ego or your own self. And hers is a dominatrix. And it shows in their alternate costume and their RPG elements and their attack patterns and things like that.
Oh. Wait, sorry, real quick. Does she wear red?
Yes.
Oh, I've totally seen. See, I didn't even know what I was looking at. Okay, so that's the in her head version of her character.
Yes.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. If any time in like the last year you've seen some kind of ad, like she's that character is very prominently displayed.
Yep.
But it's interesting to see that, that character very sexualized, very, it like you recognized it immediately just for the look as I described it.
Yep.
And if you just looked, you wouldn't really know the depth of the character.
Yep.
So that's why I find it so fascinating, and I find the performance so on point, is that despite having to have a character look like that, she's able to still convey that type of outward persona and have a whole lot of depth because, as I explained, there's a lot going on behind the character in the background. Her, struggling with being unique and different from everyone else and looking different and being a model in a culture that treats their models in certain ways. That's a whole nother topic, in fact, like the Japanese Korean female models, like, and how perfect you have to look and all the plastic surgery they have to go through and all that crap. That's a whole separate issue. But in that culture, to where in America, for us playing that game, we may not understand as well what that means if you're not into that culture. But you have to understand also that this game was made by a Japanese company for a Japanese audience. So there's entire layers of depth to a character like that these actors have to portray. And even more difficult is for them to have to portray it in English, where in Japanese, there are different ways of saying certain words or different phrases to use to tell, I'll say, a different story to what's going on just because of the language barrier. Yet, I feel, at least to me, that the American cast, especially Erika, did a fantastic job in conveying that feeling in English.
Nice. Okay, cool. I will say this. I can't name any movies, but if I could, I wouldn't want to because I'm about to dump on them. There are movies where you watch it in the original language and I'm like, man, that's badass. And then you watch it in the dub version, you're like, oh, my ears are bleeding. So I like that you can say English version was outstanding. So hey, that's thumbs up. That's awesome.
I agree with you 100%. Like, there are a ton of movies when they get translated, they're absolutely horrible. They are very bad. And to their credit, a lot of it is because that the English language can't convey certain emotions or certain feelings through the words that we have as compared to in other languages. So it's not necessarily the actor's fault.
No.
It may have been just the way that things come through and the way that the words get translated. I've actually read a bunch of articles, the game in question, Persona 5. I've read a bunch to where people say that this is actually not a good translation. There's entire YouTube videos on it. And I definitely don't disagree with what those people are saying because there are certain parts in the game to where it's trying to say something and I'm like, oh, this is so Japanese. But it doesn't quite come out. But I mean, to me personally, those are minor because, and it just might be because I understand what's actually going on and what they're actually saying. Not that
Right,
I
right.
know Japanese, like I don't speak very much Japanese at all, but I understand culturally what they're conveying and I understand what they're trying to say, yet the English doesn't quite come out. But I don't really feel that those few times detract from the entire, entertainment of the game, the whole thing over the 100 hours.
Right, right. Okay.
But you bring up the
Mm.
whole sub versus dub argument, and we can get into that if
Yes.
you want.
Totally, totally. Okay, so I mean, this backs up your point, and I always think of this. So, you know what? Okay, that's fine. I can use the names. So one, I love Naruto. I'm a huge. Okay, for the record, I read Naruto before I ever watched any movies or videos or whatever, and it was always Naruto. And people are like, "Dude, you're killing me with that." Okay, sorry. So Naruto. I don't always change the pronunciation of stuff. Like Ryu is still Ryu. He's gonna be Ryu to the day I die. I'm sorry, Ryu. That was a great character. Okay, anyway, so in Naruto.
Naruto is
Okay.
actually more correct, I think, because as I said earlier, in Japanese, there's no emphasis. So Naruto is not the correct pronunciation as I understand it.
Right, right, right.
Naruto is a very plain way to pronounce it.
Okay, cool, cool. So anyway, there's a beginning story where he's much younger, and it's essentially 3 students and Kakashi. And someone says to Kakashi, "Hey man, I don't think your students should be in on this. Like this is gonna be them drowning. This is gonna be very hard." And in one translation, Kakashi says, "Yeah, I want them to suffer." And I'm like, wow, that's dark. And in another translation, it said, "No, I have faith in them. They'll win." And I'm like, wow, that is so not the same lines at all, you know? And if you were doing the voice acting for that, well, you could read either one. Whatever script gets handed to you, that's what you're reading. And both of those lines don't even remotely mean the same thing. So yeah, I would not blame the voice actor for that kind of stuff. Like that's out of their hands. You know, as an actor, you would be reading lines. That's just how it goes.
I've seen some things to where some actors who do kind of understand the situations, they try to inflect a little or insert a little of the personality into those types of scenes. But you're right. If the translation just comes back in something completely different than what it was supposed to be, then you're pretty powerless as to what you can do.
Right, right.
That being said, I am a overall, I am a fan of English dubbing. I think
Ah,
that it does well, it gives an
hmm.
entire different audience the ability to enjoy the content and not necessarily have to read lines. I'm fine reading lines, but I know
Bingo.
that there is a large group of people to
Also
where
bingo.
they can't concentrate on reading lines and watching what's
Yes.
going on.
Yes.
So it makes that whole experience very unenjoyable for those type of people. So I overall am a fan of dubbing. Like I said to you earlier, there are many horrible dubs.
Yes.
But as a general statement, I think it's a good thing. And it's as I am learning, an underappreciated industry.
Oh, totally, totally. I will say this. There was a movie a long time ago, and I don't remember what it was, but it was me and some friends, and we're watching, and I knew what I was getting into because I usually know what's up with movies. So there's a lot of text on the screen. And afterwards, the response was essentially, "How dare you, Alvin? How dare you?" And I'm like, whoa, what the hell? How dare you make me read things? You know, that was essentially what I was being told. And all I could think was, dude, it wasn't like a hot knife into the back. What the hell, man? Um, but I remember that response. And this I don't remember, which bothers me. I recently saw something else. And this movie also had a ton of words on the bottom, you know, the subtitles, whatever. And there was none of that. So part of me is like, you know, has the culture shifted a little bit more? Are people a little more tolerant? I don't know. Chances are I'm probably just hanging with people who are less mean. but yeah, it I have absolutely been exposed to that where it's like, how dare you make me read stuff on the bottom? And I have mixed feelings about that. I get it. I do get it. So here's a theory. So just to throw it out there. Chris, I've never measured how fast you read. I'm going to assume it's pretty fast. I don't actually know. And the reason why I say that is I was at my friend's house a long time ago, and it was a group of like 5 of us or something. And then there's a movie. They know I haven't seen it yet. So we're watching it. And I'm like, oh, that's funny. And one of the girls turns to me and she's like, damn, you read a little too fast. You got to let the joke get in there, man. I'm like, oh, right. Sorry. Because I'm already laughing. I read it already. You know, it's on the bottom. I read all the text and I started laughing. So if I was a slow reader, and honestly, I don't think I'm a fast reader. But anyway, if I was bad at it, then it would bother me even more. You know, I'd miss the cool punch between the hero and the villain. I'd miss the whatever scenes. So I could see that as well. Although I think it's a little bit deeper than just reading speed.
I think so. It's partially reading speed, but it's also your ability to understand and reprocess that into the scenario, right?
True.
You have to be constantly thinking about what's going on with these characters while reading what's going on. It's different than reading a book, because when you're reading a book, everything, all the words are there, and in your mind, the picture is forming. You don't have the visual stimulation of the actual picture on screen as well to have to process and understand what's going on, because that in itself tells a story beyond the words that you're reading at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that it takes a little bit of, I'll say, skill and maybe even practice to be able to watch subbed things.
Fascinating. Okay. I can see that. Well, okay. So now on that point, I will say my preference is to always have subtitles on the bottom, even in English, just because I prefer that. For instance, as you may have heard weird vehicle noises behind me, I sometimes have noises coming in. Sometimes, and I've definitely experienced this, there's the whisper, explosions. And I'm like, okay, damn it. Is my volume high or low? Because I'll lower it after the explosions, and the guy over there, he's just whispering, and then I can't hear him, you know? So I always prefer text on screen. And the shocking thing is that bugs the hell out of people. Like, wow, I'm surprised by that, even more so that it bothers people that much.
Interesting.
So, yes, I've encountered that many times. Because again, that's like my default setting. I just put it on always. But I've had people react surprisingly negative to that. I'm like, just look up. You know, the words are there. You can ignore them. Look in the middle of the screen. But wow. Actually, you know what? Okay. Any listeners out there, if it bothers you to hear a movie or show in English and the text on the bottom is in English, if it bothers you, please say so. Because my theory is that's more common than I realize. Because everything I watch, I do that.
Hit us up on social media or leave a comment in one of our many podcast service networks. We'll say to let us know if you don't like watching the text go by when the movie's playing. Personally, I don't mind it. I don't really care. I do not default to it like you. I don't have it on the screen when there's English being played, but I get what you're saying. It makes sense. You're right in that there are times to where I'm like, what did he say? What's going on?
Yes.
So
correct.
I can see the benefit of having it. Yes. But
okay. So real quick, just to go on that a little bit more for fun. I always have it on. So if I'm watching something where literally one dude is farting on screen, because hey, that's comedy sometimes. The dude farts, and you know what? A deaf person wouldn't know that. So on the bottom it says flatulence or whatever. You know, like see, it's an added layer of joy. See. Okay. Anyway.
Side note: Did you read the thing about Instagram was coming out with like a function to where the visually impaired could enjoy pictures?
What does that mean?
I have no idea. I didn't look into it. I just saw an article about it. But anyway, I might cut this out of the podcast. But whatever.
No
the fuck, that's weird.
No problem. Fascinating. Nope, don't know it. Interesting.
Anyway, back to Erika Harlacher.
Yes.
The second character that she plays that I really, really enjoy comes from the Danganronpa series. Now, for those who don't know, Danganronpa is a mix between we'll say Phoenix Wright type courtroom battle simulator and a visual novel. And it revolves around, if you remember from a number of years ago, the Japanese movie Battle Royale.
You know, I don't, but I've been told about it so many times. I'm sure I know the premise. Continue, please.
It's the one where the high school students are trapped somewhere and they have to murder each other.
Hunger Games, yep.
Kind of like Hunger Games, very much like Hunger Games, but in fact, I think that this was the inspiration for the Hunger Games.
Bingo. Yes, I believe it predates it.
It does. Definitely does.
Yep.
So in this one, She plays a character which is actually the main female protagonist. Not well, I guess not the main protagonist, but we'll say the second main protagonist with the female lead.
Okay, sure.
Named Kyoko Kirigiri is the pronunciation that they say in the game. Those of you who know Japanese know that is kind of incorrect, but in English I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Like Kirigiri is actually the more, I think, correct pronunciation in Japanese, but I can see to where they had to normalize it for its audience. Anyway, Kyoko Kirigiri is the daughter of the school's headmaster, to which all these students go to, and then they're killing each other. And every student has what we would call an ultimate power, and she is the ultimate detective.
Oh, cool.
So what's funny is, to me at least, is that I played Persona 5 first. I actually played that before any of the Danganronpa games, even though the Danganronpa games came out years before Persona 5. Okay. And I was introduced to Erika Harlacher through Persona 5. And Ann Takamaki is a very bubbly, happy-go-lucky type character, very uplifting type personality for the most part. I mean, she can be serious at times, but she's a very flowery type of personality just in general. Kyoko Kirigiri, on the other complete opposite of spectrum, is very cold and very serious and very complete 180. So when I found out that it was the same actress doing those two different characters, I was in shock. I thought that was really, really cool, even though one came before the other. Like, I viewed them out of order. So it's cool to see when you're a voice actor, how you can create these characters and these voices that convey completely different people, to where, for example, and I'm not going to knock on it too much, but it's a true statement. When you see actual actors, some of them are just themselves being the character. For example, one of my favorites, so it's not negative per se, but Jason Statham. I love Jason Statham, but he's Jason Statham in every single fucking movie.
Totally.
Right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's funny. I recently watched a video to where it was on YouTube, and it was Terry Crews going over all of his most iconic characters. And I love Terry Crews. Terry Crews is awesome. And maybe we'll do an episode about these guys later. But Terry Crews, for the most part, also plays Terry Crews in almost everything. He's got some really good ones to where, it kind of branches off. But in general, he's just a giant muscular dude. And that's what he does in all the movies. So I find it cool to where certain performers are able to change themselves so much. And I believe that in voice, it's probably a little easier because the stereotype of what you look like doesn't come with it. So if you are able to inflect better, then you're able to create different characters more easily. I think. I don't know. I'm not a voice actor of any type, but I think it's really cool to see the same person inflect themselves so much differently into different characters, especially when you see them in interviews and you see how they really speak and you see how they are really present themselves as a person.
Okay. On that note, two characters that I really enjoy. So first of all, I'm not a Wolverine fan. That's just already hitting some people in the face. I apologize for just keeping it real. I'm not. Having said that, I love the crap out of some of the Wolverine movies, especially Logan. Anyway, the reason why I mentioned all that was I didn't know that man at all. I never followed Hugh Jackman in any way at all, ever. And then one day I hear him in an interview, and he's got a really thick accent, and it's just tripping me out. Because when I watch the Wolverine stuff, I never ever think of him as a guy with an accent. Okay. So I had to mention that. Okay. All right. So this was supposed to be the cherry on top. I was going to ask you this at the end, but we're living it right now. So why not? And I just thought this was very fascinating. So I used to watch all kinds of stuff. One of them was Powerpuff Girls. I've watched it. I can't say I'm a huge fan, but I've definitely watched it. And hey, Bubbles, cool, whatever, cool character. So Bubbles is played by Tara Strong. Anyway, I like Teen Titans. Great show. I also enjoy Teen Titans Go. Anyway, Raven, played by Tara Strong. I'm like, oh, that's weird, right? Like, just like your reaction, I didn't know these two different characters were played by the same person. So I dig her up. All right, Chris. You know what? I'm just gonna say all compliments here. I think it's fine. It's kind of weird, but anyway. So I'm looking up Tara Strong. So of course you get the images of the people who are of the characters, obviously, but then you also get images of Tara Strong. And man, so this is how I phrase it. For a woman who earns her living via voice, wow, that is an incredibly attractive woman. Like it's weird how attractive she is. Um, and all I could think was, okay, you know what? At this point, I'm sure the hiring is based off of skill. Obviously, she's very good at what she does, but it makes you wonder, right? Like who's hiring? Okay. Let's. I'm gonna dial it way back to something from a long time ago. There was this woman. Um, I was crushing on her. We're dating, whatever. Good looking woman. And the reason why I say that is she, to me, is just some woman that I met and whatever. Fine. She then tells me, "Oh, you would love my coworker." And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. And then she says, "Yeah, all the guys, they call her Kalo." And I'm like, I don't know what that means either. She goes, "Well, her name starts with a K, but she's hot like Jennifer Lopez. So they call her Kalo." And I'm like, oh. And instantly, all I could think was, you, ridiculously good looking woman, work there. Then Jennifer Lopez clone or whatever, twin, works there. And I'm like, bro, whoever's doing the hiring, this guy or woman, whoever this is, needs to like dial it back a little. Like I hope these people are being chosen for the right reasons. Not to be against good looking people. It's just you generally don't work. You don't see a small office with two incredibly gorgeous women. I don't. Statistically, that doesn't really happen.
See,
Okay.
I don't think that there is a link between the fact that these actors and actresses, just because they're not showing their face, is because they can't show their face. You know,
interesting.
I don't think that that's necessarily a one-to-one thing. It's just that they ended up becoming voice over because that's what they fell into or that's what they seem to enjoy.
Right.
In fact, to bring it back a little bit, I watched an interview with Erika Harlacher where she discussed the fact that she's actually kind of tall. And there was I don't know if it was a talent, I forget the whole context of the answer, but basically if it was like a talent agency or an acting group to where, because she was, of course, like many others, into actual acting at first, I think. Yes. But anyway, she was told that, well, you're kind of tall, so I don't know if you could get this role or this role or this role because you're kind of tall for that. So not necessarily that they can't be in front of the camera, or maybe there are some reasons where they can't because of the stereotypes that we have in our society. Erika Harlacher, also attractive, but again, that's tall.
Yes. Well, okay. So I had a former boss before, and I did not think was ugly. I thought she was a normal person and attractive on whatever ways you want to play it out. But anyway, we were talking about her friends once, and she said to me, "Alvin, I have a friend. She hates beautiful women." I'm like, oh, okay. I don't even remember how we got to that, but she was just like, "Yep, that friend of mine, she hates beautiful women. Period. She meets them, she hates them." I'm like, that's kind of silly though. Like I'm sure there are good, beautiful people as well as bad, beautiful people. There's no reason to hate all of them. But for this one person, that's just how she views things. Anyway, none of that should matter, none of that should matter in a job context, especially in a voice-based context. But that was my question. That was going to be my question to you. How attractive is this woman? Because I've never looked her up. And it should not matter. But in our society, looks always matter, even in a voice-based thing, which is gross and frustrating at the same time.
It is. And it kind of speaks to just, we'll say, entertainment in general, right? Like people in front of the camera, that if generally they hire more attractive people because that's what makes money, right? Sure. And for other people who I wouldn't say are unattractive, but you're not like the top tier of top tier, that you end up kind of playing second fiddle and having to struggle through everything. And it's kind of ironic because, as I alluded to a little earlier, that's kind of the rub with voice acting, in that
Hmm.
they don't get paid a whole lot, as I understand, or at least that's the
Oh, interesting.
consensus that I am uh, uh, privy to hearing. And it's not like they don't really give actual numbers, but I follow a few voice actors on social media, and there are many instances of them describing how it's a pretty rough industry to work in. A lot of them have secondary gigs and secondary roles. In fact, I'm going to throw this out there right now. I didn't prepare you for this, but have you heard of Critical
Okay.
Role?
No, I don't. What is
It
that?
is a Dungeons and Dragons podcast that has been going on
Okay.
for a decent amount of time, to where there's a bunch of people, and they're basically playing Dungeons and Dragons and recording it.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
video series / podcast series, and all of the participants are voice actors.
Oh. No, I heard about this from someone else. One of those guys is an Overwatch man. That's why I know
Yeah,
this.
Matthew Mercer is the DM. He's McCree in Overwatch.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, continue,
anyway,
please. Yes.
so the point I'm making is that just voice acting in anime and games, which a lot of them do as their quote unquote main gig, is not the only thing that they do. These other ventures, while I'm sure they also want to be creative, I think they almost have to do just to survive, living in LA, which most of them do, and being in this industry that severely, as I understand, underpays its employees.
Hmm.
Erika Harlacher, for example, does a whole bunch of other things on the side, like photo shoots and YouTube videos and things like that. So it's interesting to see the hustle that these people have to do, just because they're in an industry to where, for the most part, I think they enjoy the content and that's why they do it. But they have to, just to make ends meet or to live comfortably, they have to do things that are outside of their normal, what you would call 9 to 5.
Okay. Chris, so I've never auditioned for a role. I've never done that. But I can kind of imagine what it's like because I've seen it. I've seen audition tapes or whatever. So I can see going to an audition and failing. That's a thing. We don't want you. Sorry, next, whatever. And I can see doing that again. Like, of course, that's what you do. You audition until you get a good part or whatever, until you get a part. So I was reading something on the Incredible Hulk, Mark Ruffalo, and I don't remember the number exactly, but I think I have the right number. So anyway, someone asked him something like, "Oh, how do you feel about acting?" Stuff like that. Anyway, his comment was he went on 600 auditions before he got a role, and like I know what 600 is. That's 599 plus one. Like I know what the math is, but I can't imagine going to 599 auditions and being told no, go away or whatever. Like that just sucks. And what I'm getting at is I freaking love him as the Hulk. Ridiculous. He's great. I see him on screen and I feel good. I'm glad he's doing it, But clearly just to get there, that path was ugly and it took a long time. So anyone who's living the struggle, I will never dump on them. Like I get it. It's a long ass road. Not always a fun road either.
It's kind of interesting because I'm going to reel it back into the Le'Veon Bell episode that we did, right? And
Yes.
it's hard to make the apples to oranges comparison here, but Le'Veon Bell, NFL players, things like that, they are the top tier of top tier of top tier, and they make a lot, but the struggle is real. And the same thing for these actors, voice actors, the struggle is real for all of them. And it's all because of what our society has come to accept with regard to mainstream entertainment. If you think about it, right? To make it in entertainment, you have to be the top of the top of the top. Otherwise, you just kind of struggle. Or maybe that's just a thing to where entertainment's so glorified and a whole bunch of people be like, hey, yeah, I want to be in that. I want to be an actor. I want to be an NFL player type thing.
Right.
And it's such a popularized thing, but it may not fall. The dominoes may not fall so well for certain people, whether talent or just circumstances. In fact, it'll be even more interesting in the next 20 years, because nowadays there are people whose kids are like, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up.
Yes.
So how does that play out to the whole thing? I mean, we're living it right now, you and I, just, recording this. It's kind of interesting.
Yes.
Granted, we're not little kids saying that, but it's interesting to see how to get into mainstream media or to get into just general entertainment, how difficult it is and what kind of struggle people have to go through just to make that work if that's what you want to do.
Okay. So I gotta say this. I am a huge Batman fan. Pretty much anything with the word Batman on it, I'm at least a little curious and probably madly in love with it. So for me, if I see a drawing of Batman and he's about to speak, I already hear Kevin Conroy's voice. My brain just does it. I love his voice. He fits perfectly. Now, I know literally there's at least a few of like movies or animated things or whatever. It's not Kevin Conroy. And I just sit there like, man, give me my Kevin Conroy. This is lame. I don't want this guy. And I feel so bad, but I don't even know who the other guy is. My childhood into adult brain says, I want Kevin Conroy and I only want him. I love his voice.
So you're telling me that when you see Batman, you don't think of George Clooney?
Oh, yeah. No, well, I like nipples on my breastplate. That's what I do. I add nipples.
Even Christian Bale?
Well, not the live action thing is a different animal. I mean, I get where you're going with that. So live action, not so bad. For me, for the record, it was Michael Keaton.
No, I'm with you. I don't know if I told you this, but I've said this to multiple other people at least. Like Christian Bale, great Bruce Wayne, fucking horrible Batman.
Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. No, I'm not dumping on him. I'm just saying, if I had to choose one, the imprinting would be from Michael Keaton.
No, definitely.
It just. But I love the hell out of the Batman and the Bruce Wayne stuff. Okay, wait. Hold on. So I'm going somewhere with this. Kevin Conroy was being interviewed and someone said, yo, man, clearly you're in this business. What would you say to some dude who wants to join this business? And I forgot exactly what he said, but essentially it was, back in the old day, you can have a cool ass voice, deep voice, and you can be Batman, welcome. You have a deep voice. We want you to be Batman, whatever. But these days, it doesn't work like that anymore. And I forgot the word he used, but it's that thing where like, we need a snake to talk in a movie. Scarlett Johansson. It's like, oh, wait, what? Like there's no, we never see her face, but we need the voice of Scarlett Johansson. And then that happens for other things too. There's an animated movie coming. It's Will Smith. It looks awesome and hilarious actually. But anyway, like that could just be a dude, a random dude. Many people have voices. Let them take that role. But Kevin Conroy's point was these days, and I forgot what the word he used, but essentially it was like they cast celebrities now. And it's much, much harder for a schmo to get in. And that just makes it even harder. Like if you're not Scarlett Johansson and you want to be playing a character's voice, then hey, props to you to make it in there. It's a challenge.
That's interesting. And I'm going to segue a little bit from that, but I see where you're going with it in that a lot of these mainstream movies, when you see like the trailer for them, right? A big draw is that they'll show the character and they'll show a famous person's name underneath it to where, this is the voice. Yeah. Like Trolls, right? Remember the Trolls movie? Justin Timberlake is this one, and so that's kind of Anna Kendrick is the other one. So, but that's interesting to see that in American mainstream media, that's becoming the case. But to dial it back to where we came from on this, for Japanese mainstream media, that's not necessarily the case. In fact,
interesting.
A lot of these voice actors who do English dubs over anime or English dubs over Japanese content have to deal with what they call ADR. And what that basically means, I can't even remember what the acronym stands for right now, but basically what it means is that they have to match the words of the translation to the mouth movements of the character. And that in and of itself is a whole nother skill that mainstream actors don't necessarily have or don't necessarily practice because it's not as widely viewed of a medium. So very interestingly, Kevin Conroy's comment, correct, in that in a lot of American or made for American type mainstream media, things, they're getting more famous actors. But when you look at other niche works, there's still a section of people to where that is what they do.
No, I'm sure it's a mess too. You just got audition all day, and yeah, I applaud anyone who goes through that. So definitely agree. All right, Chris. So I again, the only game I really play these days is Overwatch because I don't play much else. Uh, so we recently had a con where Overwatch voice people were coming over. I'm like, oh, badass. So I know Diva, I know Lucio, I know these names. Then I saw Soldier 76, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't know anything about him. And then you read his bio, and it's like, whoa, this guy has been in everything forever, apparently. That's awesome. He was Wolverine on some show. He was, I think, Jet from Cowboy Bebop. Like, it's ridiculous list. I only know him as Soldier 76, well, for the most part. So that's something, if I could ask Erika something, I would ask her, like, how do you do that? Because the flip side of this equation is there's a lot of people who are one voice, and that's it. I don't know if they choose to be, you know, I don't know if that's intentional or if they're struggling to not be the one voice, because clearly there are some people who do literally like 50 voices. And I don't know. Yeah, I'd ask that. That'd be an interesting question.
I agree. I think it would be. And that's kind of the whole point, in that it's cool to see where a character that you know, and you're like, oh, it was this person too. And he played this character too, and this one too. Like, it's very interesting to see. And especially if those characters are very different from each other. And that's kind of the whole genesis of it. And there are many interviews done online that I haven't, kind of browsed all of, but it's a very interesting thing to see voice actors kind of talk about that. I actually missed the panel of the one I wanted to see at RTX when I went to there, just because there were some conflicting things and it got, full out real fast. But Troy Baker is another huge voice actor who's been in many different anime and games, and I had missed his panel. I really wanted to go see it. But if you look up Troy Baker, he's probably been at least like a bunch of games that you played. But the whole point also is that he's done all these different games, all these different voices, and they all kind of like are different. Well, some similar, but a lot of them are different from each other.
But okay, so I wanted to go back to this because again, Japanese to American or English or whatever. So let's say okay, so I know Street Fighter, and there's that thing where the two guys are fighting. Say Ryu. Yep, still gonna pronounce it that way. Ryu versus Ken. Jump kick, standing punch, whatever, and then you hear it, Hadouken. Right, it's a very iconic term, that sound. My friend's friend, that's his texting sound. So when you text him, you hear Hadouken, and like, oh, I guess he got a text. I love hearing that. It's just awesome. So anyway, the commentary I've heard before was, that really only works in Japanese. And I'm like, is that true? I don't know if that's true. And then you hear certain things and you realize that the translation is just not easy to do. Like, I think if I were to voice act as Ryu, I wouldn't change it. It wouldn't become, that guy's dangerous, I'm going to throw a fireball at him. And it would just stay Hadouken. So that's something I've also wondered before too. Like, what do they or do they not change? Because in theory, if you're translating, why aren't you translating every word? I guess in this case, it's too iconic.
It depends, I'm sure. I think that they're given context of what's going on, but
okay.
I mean, okay, so I don't know how this is gonna fit in with everything else we've been talking about, but I'll throw it at you like this. I listened to a thing maybe a month or so ago to where the new Spider-Man game that came out earlier this year.
Okay.
So Yuri Lowenthal is the voice of Peter Parker / Spider-Man, and one thing that some of the reviewers noticed while playing the game was that for every voice line that he has, for example, he kind of talks to himself as he's traversing New York City, and it sounds different if you're moving or you're not moving. So he actually had to say almost all the lines two separate times. One as if he's standing still and calm, and one
Interesting.
set as if you're like running and moving at a high speed. So
Huh.
contextually, it gives that immersion experience of what you're actually hearing. But for the actor, he actually had to
Interesting.
record every single line in that space twice.
Man, that's some dedication. That's cool. Interesting. Huh. Okay. Yeah. I've never heard of that. I guess the closest thing would be like, so say me and you were filming some scene where we just beat up some guy. Okay, we're gonna run onto the set, and then the next scene is on. Well, we filmed that other scene like 2 months ago. So this scene, well, we still got to be out of breath, you know. So I've heard of this where like actors will just run in circles or whatever, run in place, and then action, and then they're already breathing hard. Like the stuff they got to do off screen to make it work better on screen is something. I mean, quote unquote, you just call it movie magic and moving on. Like you don't even think about it. But that's cool. Like if I knew that prior and I met him, I'd be like, dude, you filmed all that stuff twice. That's badass. I gotta handshake that. That's
Yep,
cool.
yep. It's just part of, I think, again, the admiration of the industry and what they have to do. And
Hmm.
in total, I think that these people have a great passion for what they're doing because, as I had mentioned, it ain't for the money.
Here's a question. I remember hearing this when I was much younger, and I didn't really understand what it was. Uh, when Aladdin was being filmed, there was a guy playing Aladdin. I want to say that was Steve from Full House. I'm sorry, Steve, I don't remember your name, but that guy was playing the voice. Then, of course, because it's Aladdin, there would be singing involved. Then they'd bring in another person to sing. And I always thought that was interesting. So he would be the voice for like all the dialogue, and then once you cut the singing, boom, someone else. And I'd ask, voice actors that as well. Like, how many times have you done that? Is that a normal thing? Does it help? Is it easier? Like maybe that Steve guy didn't want to sing. I don't know what that means.
Aside, I read a thing recently. The movie, the Lady Gaga Bradley Cooper movie, A Star Is Born.
Oh, okay,
Apparently,
okay.
apparently they were thinking about doing that kind of thing during that movie, and then Lady Gaga's like, "No, fuck no, Bradley
Of
Cooper,
course
you're gonna
not.
actually
Yeah,
sing. Like we're gonna actually sing." Like something like, I don't know if they
nice,
were thinking
interesting.
about like bringing in another voice or something, but she's like, "No, we're actually singing. So you're gonna have to learn how to sing."
Ah, nice, interesting. See, and the flip side of that is I've only heard good things out of that movie. Okay, aside from the content, I haven't seen it yet, but I know there's some dark stuff. But aside from the content, yeah, like the acting, the singing, I've only heard good stuff. So hey,
Yep.
props to him. Nice. I think it was Stephen Colbert because I watched some of his stuff, and he's like, "Damn it, Bradley, can you tone it down? You're like, can you not be skilled in one thing so normal guys like us can have some skills?" I thought that
Yeah.
was funny. Yeah, that was a pretty cool comment. Yeah. All right, so this is from earlier. You're talking about the persona character, and I'm fairly sure I have the right image in my head because you just see random images. So we were talking about like the look of something and how it works and that kind of thing. And I remember a long time ago, I don't remember what it was called, but I call it the silhouette test. So let's say there's Homer Simpson. He's standing over there, but you can't really see him. It's just a silhouette. Well, I know what he looks like. I know he has two hairs on top of his head. I know he's got a gut. I know where his nose is. I know his whole shape. And the idea is if Homer Simpson was standing there, then say Batman was standing on some other place, well, I'd know who he is too. I know the cape, and more accurately, I know the pointed ears. Like costume design, makes a character stand out. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. It should just be I know one character, I know the other character. Let's just move on. But the flip side of that is being confused by look. So I always appreciate when something looks super clear, and I feel like it just facilitates the story a little bit better. See, I kind of want to watch Persona now because clearly their normal mode and their psyche mode are not the same thing.
The
So I'm kind of curious.
anime is out. I don't think they finished the whole season, but it's out right now. It's not dubbed though. But anyway,
Oh, okay,
so
okay,
if you want to check it out,
okay.
you
See, I didn't
can.
even know. Now that's interesting. Well, see, I'd love to ask her that.
Well,
What
no,
was
it's
up with that?
because the
But
the game
okay.
came out first, then the English in Japan, then the English dub came out in America. So the American version came out months later. Now the anime is out in
Oh, right,
Japan.
right.
It's in Japanese, but there's been no announcement on whether they're going to localize it to English yet. So the anime is in Japan.
You-
You can watch it on Crunchyroll or Funimation or whatever the hell you watch on. But but
Right.
the one cool thing about it,
Okay.
and what you mentioned the character and you mentioned the look and everything like that. It's funny because like Erika cosplays her character, which is pretty
Oh,
awesome,
trippy,
and
trippy,
does
trippy,
does a really
trippy.
good job of it.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not saying that they all don't do this, but I'm sure some of them don't. She actually plays the fucking game, you know. Like,
Oh, nice.
so
Nice,
that's
nice.
another thing that kind of made me really enjoy her as an actress is that like she actually really enjoys the content and actually enjoys the medium and actually plays the game. Like she's a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. If you follow on social media, huge.
Oh,
right?
wicked.
She actually cosplays her character.
Nice.
So that's super cool. And again, it kind of shows that, as I had mentioned, these actors, they love what they do and that's why they do it. They're not doing it to get ridiculously rich or ridiculously famous. They just love the medium and they love the content.
Nice, nice. I think a lot of people find this idea as a cliche, but I still love it. And I feel like it's very true. If you're doing the stuff you love, you're not really working, You just go out there and you just love it. That's
I'm
pretty
with
awesome.
you 100% there, man.
All right, so I'll ask you this. See, I don't know how to phrase this question, so I'm just going to throw the idea out there. We had some guy who I don't know who he was, but he's a big voice actor, and he was in Hawaii. And there's that part at the end of the con or end of his hour-long thing or whatever. People get to ask, "Hey, can you like answer this question or whatever?" And some of them, it's not really a question; it's a request. So it's like, "Can you say what over 9,000?" And the actor even said, "I don't know what that means, but if you want me to," and then he says it, the whole room loses their shit. They're just having a great time. Like, oh my God, And all I could think was that joy comes solely from that person's voice. That is effing awesome. That's just great. I think it's something that's not appreciated enough. And I love hearing that kind of stuff.
To be completely honest, having gone as well and even watching the voice actor panels from cons online, the number one thing that gets the crowd going is when they do lines in the voice, right? Like it's a thing. It's entertaining. That's
True.
part of the whole experience. That's what you're a fan of, right? You're a fan of the character. And while it's not the same as the person, they in sometimes are one and the same, right? There's a connection there, and I think that's what's important.
Yeah, I've heard some crazy stuff. So there's always like from those old trailers, in a world where tornadoes attack every day or whatever. There's that deep voice thing. I've heard really weird, stupid stuff or random stuff like, "I like burritos," just random, and somehow it's just hilarious and awesome. So yes, I don't know if there's been any Erika stuff like that. Are you familiar with anything like that?
Not
any weird line?
No, not necessarily a weird line, but she definitely does do lines when making appearances and stuff. But I don't know about a weird one.
Okay, nice. Okay, cool.
All right. And with that, we want to thank you for coming down this memory lane with us on voice actors, video games, anime, and all the like. You are listening to How's It Cousins, the podcast where we take a look at the unique people of the world and the interesting things that they do. We talk about them, we relate to them, and hopefully we relate them to you, our listeners. If you like what you're hearing, you can check us out on all the popular podcast services, including Spotify now, because Spotify is really cool. It took us a little bit of time to get on there. If you like us, you can check us out at HowsItNetwork.com. Any of our new stuff goes up there. Follow us on social media at HowsItNetwork, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Please check us out there.
All right. And if you like that Alvin goodness, please visit AlohaAlvin.com. I write like how I speak. And if you enjoyed me today, I'm sure you enjoy the site too.
Thank you for lending us your beautiful ears. And don't forget, it's not goodbye, because we'll see you later.